In today's Take a Day, I want to talk about Marcus Morris of the Los Angeles Clippers. I want to talk about why this could be his last opportunity to prove himself. Now, before we get into that, though, please like, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell just so you get the newest and the bonus content first. We put out content every day, so you won't miss any content here. Now, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So, Marcus Morris, these last couple of seasons that he's been with the Clippers, he earned a $64 million contract, $60+ million contract. And when you think about, his production as, the player that he is, the two-way player that he can be, it definitely hasn't lived up to its, to its height so far. And, to me, if you ask me, when you look at Marcus Morris, I'm not saying he doesn't have time to rectify, like last year in the playoffs, or his inconsistency type ways that he has, inefficient shooting at times that he has. But he does have time on his side. And, I do believe the Clippers will definitely, think really hard when it comes to Marcus Morris, because they like him as a player and as a teammate, amongst the others, and they like him in the organization that they have. And, when you look at his talent and the type of player he could be, I mean, honestly, he's not Kawhi Leonard by any means, but he should make up for some of what Kawhi Leonard does, because he is good on both ends of the floor as well. He's not the wing defender that Kawhi is, but he's a defender that a lot of people look at as a bruiser, a physical defender, and somebody who doesn't mind playing rough, hard defense, playoff type caliber defense as well. So when you think about that in its entirety, most people feel like they should see more out of Marcus Morris in regards to his production and, how he plays and, what he can bring, to the Clippers as a team. And so far, Marcus Morris, if you want to be honest about it, he's been mediocre at best. He's had moments where, he really would play, to the level of expectation. Then he had moments where he hasn't. And a lot of people, a lot of NBA fans and maybe Clipper fans have looked at him and said, they definitely can get more out of him. He definitely can do a lot better, but he hasn't done it. Now, he has had injuries just like every other player, so I don't want to make excuses, for him. But honestly, at this point, it's put up or shut up for Marcus Morris, because when you look at the contract he was given and the production that he gave out, it doesn't match. I mean, last year even in the playoffs, they wouldn't have been down 0-2 a lot of those series if Marcus Morris was that third piece that they needed him to be, on consistent nights. And he wasn't. It turned into being Reggie Jackson as the third scorer into the playoffs last year. And this is what I'm saying. When you have mishaps like that, those type of things come back to haunt you. And if Marcus Morris wants to continue to be a part of the Clippers organization, he's going to have to be more consistent on both ends of the floor. And with Kawhi Leonard being out, they're going to have to ask more of him as of right now going forward until Kawhi Leonard comes back. And even though he's fresh off injury, he's going to have to be able to sustain that. He's going to have to be able to do it, because if he doesn't, I'm really not sure if the Clippers are going to exercise options, bringing him back next year. It may be a trade situation with him in regards to his position and everything. They might switch, with another team and go elsewhere. And, when you look at Marcus Morris, you definitely see the talent that he has, but he definitely hasn't lived up to it. I mean, I can even point back into Boston. There were times where, I think he played good, but at the same time, when it was needed the most, he had games where he lagged a lot. And, it's one of those things where you like a player like him and you think a lot of him, but at the same time, production is what it's all about. And I think a lot of Clipper Nation, of people that I've spoke to personally, things like that, and heard from, that they're really not overly satisfied with Marcus Morris' efforts, throughout the time he's been with the Clippers. So, he's definitely one of those players I feel like is a valuable piece of the Clippers when he's playing well. Because I've said before, when Marcus Morris is head on right, and when he's playing the way he's supposed to, it's almost as if the Clippers go how he go. However Marcus Morris goes, that's how the Clippers goes. If Marcus Morris has a great day from the field, 7 for 8 from threes, or 5 for 8 from threes, and he has like 20+ points, the Clippers always seem to win. I mean, it doesn't matter who they play either. If Marcus Morris has a good game, the Clippers always usually win. And that could be a coincidence. That could just be the way it is. I don't know what weird, crazy situation that is, but it seems that way every time. And even last year, you can see in some games, games there in the regular season and in the playoffs. When Marcus Morris plays to his potential, the Clippers seem like they're almost unbeatable. And, when you look at the situation, you don't want to lose a piece like him. But, if you do and get somebody comparable back for him or close to his, attributes, I would say, match the trade somewhat, you still have Nicholas Batum there, which I think he's a lot more valuable than a Marcus Morris. But I just feel like Marcus Morris is that X factor type piece for the Clippers. When he gets it going, they just play better as a team overall, and they just seem to always win. So it's a really weird situation there, but Marcus Morris is definitely a part of that, and he definitely, I know he wants to be a part of the Clippers going forward, but if he does, the rest of this season is probably going to determine that. They're going to need more out of him. They're going to have to ask more out of him, and he's going to have to deliver. It can't be Reggie Jackson putting up 31 and 10 like last night against the Mavericks. That's not going to happen too many nights. I personally think Marcus Morris needs to be the second leading scorer, and Reggie Jackson needs to be the third best scorer, because Reggie Jackson is better at closing games. To me, Reggie Jackson's a good closer, for the Clippers. So with that being said, if you can get Marcus Morris in line to score his 20 plus points, it may knock Reggie down maybe 1 point or two if Marcus Morris is scoring the way he's supposed to, but basically they could be the second best player, like 1A, 1B, like that, but Marcus Morris is going to have to produce, and he's going to have to be consistent as possible, because with his scoring and the way he can play defense on the other end, they could beat a lot of teams they've actually lost to here so far. Their record is 10-8, but they could be, maybe, 16-2, or maybe, 14-4, they could be something like that, with their record as of right now. But, when you're missing a player like Marcus Morris, and when he is in the lineup and he isn't playing the way he's supposed to, it definitely hurts the Clippers more than it helps them. So I definitely feel like Marcus Morris can, pick it up and play a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, because he does have talent. I don't want to take nothing away from him, but the consistency is what they're going to need on both ends of the floor. And I think he can do it. But at the same time, this is the time for him to prove it, because if he doesn't prove it by the end of this season, I definitely think the Clippers are looking elsewhere. If they're willing to trade a Patrick Beverley and get back Eric Bledsoe, who plays good at times, and the defense is all right, but it's not as good as Patrick Beverley's. Patrick Beverley was like the heart and soul of the Clippers. And to me, when you lose players like that, or when you give away players like that, it takes something away from a team that, sometimes they can't recover. But hopefully they can get that with Eric Bledsoe. He is a little bit more of a scorer, and he can penetrate the basket a little bit more and get his own shot. But at the same time, he has lulls. He has moments where he's good and moments where he's average. I mean, it's just a roller coaster career he's had up until this point, and it's the reason why it's been that way. So hopefully you get what you get out of him going forward. But Marcus Morris is definitely a key piece to the puzzle for the Clippers. And if they can get the production out of him that they need, they'll definitely make, a run, and they'll definitely, be a formidable team going into the playoffs. And if they get Kawhi Leonard back, definitely they'll be a contender and a threat for a title. But hey, that's my take on the situation. Leave any comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think, as always. And hey, Kelly out.